What up, fam? Welcome back to Sportside. Today is going to be another episode of the Taking Flight series, and now we're in week 2 where I'm still going to be doing strength training, doing some squats, and doing some other exercises to try and get my vertical leap. Up, 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 up. Here we go. Alright fam, it's time to go to the gym. Let's go. My Uber is here, and so it is time for me to go, but we can talk a little bit about nutrition. So I take my creatine every morning. I take 5 grams now every day just because I've already loaded. The reason why I do so is so that I can recover and keep doing a lot of strength training. Speeding through a family neighborhood, that's not safe. Now that I'm in the Uber on the way to the gym, I actually have a few minutes to talk about an important thing. So during this vertical leap series that I'm going to be doing, my nutrition had to change, because originally I was trying to stay cut, I was trying to stay as lean as possible. But then because I decided to set out a goal this summer to dunk, I needed to make sure that my nutrition coincides with whatever my goals are. Because I'm doing a lot of strength training, I can't necessarily run the risk of trying to lose weight, because then I'm not going to be able to progressively overload. I'm not going to be able to actually add more muscle mass while I'm cutting, because it doesn't make sense to try and add strength while you're eating less, because then it's actually going to make me lazier, not work out as hard, which is going to make me lose muscle, and I need muscle in order to get to my vertical jump. So I have to put my ego aside and forget about aesthetics for a little bit. But in terms of my program right now, what I have set for today, I'm gonna have some squats, and then there's gonna be some more variation of glute exercise. Nutrition that I'm trying to focus on now is making sure that every time, especially on days like this where I'm gonna be doing a lot of volume, to make sure I have my carbs, because my carbs are gonna allow me to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. If I start increasing my fat because I can have as much calories as I have, that's when I'm likely to gain some body fat, and for aesthetic reasons I don't want to do that. So the reason why I'm going to be making sure my calories, I really don't have to focus too much on my calories. I just have to make sure that I eat enough so that I can recover, because again, I'm still coming back from an Achilles rupture injury, and a lot of times one of the indications for me is if I start feeling a little bit of Achilles tendonitis, then I just know that I'm not eating enough. So that's one of the things that I needed to adjust during this vertical jump series. And so now I'm basically going to be eating almost what I want, but as long as I make sure that I'm getting my carbs in, getting my protein in, and getting my proper rest, everything should be good. We'll talk a little bit more about nutrition in later series, but I just want to give you a little quick update as to what I'm doing for my nutrition for the rest of this vertical leap series. All right, so I'll catch y'all when we get to the gym. All right, here we go. Oh, we made it to the gym. Now it's time for me to start squatting. All right, because I'm doing ass to grass or full barbell squats, I'm actually gonna get those glutes really working. So today I'm really focusing on my quads, doing a little bit more work also on my hamstrings, and of course got to make sure that I take care of the glutes. So standing calves again, because I could tell last time I did those I really wasn't that strong, so I got to make sure that I hit those. One of the things that you can actually do to try and improve your squats while you're doing these types of things is that you can do infant squats. So I'm actually going to show you what infant squats look like, and I'll show you from a distance. And if you do 2 sets of these before you do a squat, it's actually going to help you go through the form. If you saw the previous video, I was actually showing you how you can warm up your hips by doing box jumps. This is another way that you can actually get your body used to that squat form as you go through it. So that there is infant squats. And if you do infant squats, you're going to be in a much better form. So about 2 sets of 4 to 6 reps of these. It's really not too demanding. It just allows you to get your hips, glutes, ankles, everything ready for the squat form. So that's one way that you can actually, that's actually one thing that I suggest that you do before you start squatting or while you're doing the squat warm up with the bar like I just did. So now we're actually gonna start loading weight and then ramp up. Again, my top set, I'm aiming for 315 for 5 minimum at least today, because that's gonna show that I'm making improvements and progressively overloading. All right, here we go, let's load. So on that last set, I realized that I'm getting a little bit tired and I want to hit 315 for 5s, but I haven't got my energy boost. So you always know what I always go for, an energy boost. So I'll be right back. Got what I needed. Whew. Here we go. Now I'm ready to tackle this 315. All right, here we go. Alright, so glad my Monster Energy was able to actually help me out today. Now, since I started doing this thing, because I'm loading so much on my quads, I've actually been feeling a little bit of pain. I've been feeling a little bit of pain in my knee area, and so that means that my quads are just pulling too much. Obviously, I just have overactive quads, so what I need to make sure is that I work on the opposite muscles. So I need to make sure that I actually work on my posterior chain. Mainly today, I'm going to be also doing some exercises for the hamstrings, unlike last time. So if you're doing a lot of quad activated stuff, you need to make sure that you throw in some hamstring stuff so you balance it out. Much like the same way, if you're doing a lot of hamstring stuff, you need to make sure that you throw in some quad stuff. So it's all about balance. So now the next exercise I'm going to go to is I'm going to go to good morning. I'm going to make sure that these hamstrings are done just right, and then after that I'm going to work on some glutes and some more ankle mobility stuff so that we can keep protecting the knees, because injury prevention is very key. Ooh! So the key thing when I'm doing good mornings, I want to make sure, again, my feet are straight, bending my knees as I hip hinge. So for basketball players, it's very simple to understand, is if you're boxing somebody out, that same movement that you do when you box somebody out, you bend your knees, then you push your hips back. And so that's what's going to allow you to actually get the hamstring stretch, and it's not going to be anything on your lower back. If you're starting to feel in your lower back immediately as soon as you start, you probably don't have the proper form, or you're probably doing too much weight. So this one I did 135 because it's very, very difficult, but you feel your entire posterior chain, because even as I was feeling my hamstring on the full stretch, I even felt it touch a little bit into the calves, and especially particularly in the top part of the calves, which is the gastrocnemius, which is the muscle that I really want to focus on throughout this series, and not the soleus that a lot of times we do when we're seated. Time to go for my biggest nemesis, and you already know what my biggest nemesis is. It's them calves, boy, man. I'm trying to get my calves much stronger. I don't care about getting them bigger, I just need to get them stronger. So again, it's going back to standing calf raises. And standing calf raises, last time I did it, I was really sore the next day. Actually, the whole rest of the day, I was really sore, and that's the first time in a while that I actually felt a pure leg day feeling where you can't walk or anything like that. So now I'm gonna get to these standing leg calf raises, and I'm gonna get to these standing calf raises. And again, the muscle that I'm trying to work on is the gastrocnemius, which is the one that you see on basketball players. It's that big ball at the top of the calf, and that's what I'm trying to develop. So the main thing here I want to focus on is I want to make sure that I don't have momentum, because if I'm using momentum, then I'm not really actually putting enough tension under the muscle, and that's what I need to focus on. So on this one, I'm gonna make sure that I count 2 seconds at the bottom and then explode to the top, and that's how I'm slowly gonna build the gastrocnemius. All right, here we go. So the key to doing these standing seated calves is that if you're working on standing seated calves, you want to make sure, again, you don't want the momentum to be helping you. because if you keep using the momentum, then you're not getting that muscle tension. As you can see, when I actually do these, I try to make sure that, of course, safety first. So the box that I was on, sometimes it would just wobble, and the safety is number one. So the thing that I suggest to you, if you end up using a platform like I ended up doing, make sure you secure yourself. So that's why you see my hand touching the rail of like the squat rack, because that's allowing me to maintain balance. Now, you obviously don't want to cheat and use it to pull yourself up, because otherwise your calves are not getting the actual workout. But that's one of the ways that you can actually keep yourself stable. You can actually focus on just making sure that you lift. Right now, my calves are like absolutely dying. Okay, so I need to make sure that before the end of the workout that I work on some things that are like ankle mobility related, because I definitely feel like I'm gonna need that, especially while I go through this program. All right, so now the next thing that I'm gonna work on is I'm gonna work a little bit more on hamstrings, then I'm gonna work on glutes, and then I'm gonna go back to ankles. The reason why I'm doing it this way is because if I'm actually, I want to make sure that while I go through these that I'm not too fatigued. If I'm too fatigued as I go through some of them, aside from the squat, which is like my main lift for the day, my intense one, that's what I prioritize with, everything else I want to make sure that I'm hitting it at full strength. So that's why I'm switching exercises that target different muscle groups, because otherwise if I just go straight from squats and I go right into another quad driven exercise, or if I go straight from good mornings like I did there and I do another hamstring exercise, then it's just going to be too much strain, and then by the end of the workout I might be too gassed to actually finish it through. That's just my philosophy, because I just feel it's kind of the same way how I do my usual routine, where it's like full body routines, where I'm trying to make sure that whatever muscle group I just worked on gets rest while I work on another one, and then I can come back to that same muscle group area. But anyways, without going too much further, now we actually get to work on a little bit more glute stuff, and I'm actually gonna go, last time because we did the reverse hypers, this time we're gonna do something a little bit different. It's still gonna be glute oriented, but it's gonna be, it's actually a plank. So I'm gonna set up in a plank, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure I dorsiflex. If you remember, dorsiflex is when you lift your big toe, making sure that that muscle in front of your shin actually activates. That's the tibialis anterior. So here what I'm doing is I'm doing a plank, and while I'm doing a plank, I'm gonna dorsiflex my foot, and I'm gonna lift my leg, and then I'm gonna extend it out to the side back, bringing it down but controlling it on the way down so that it doesn't touch the ground, and then back up. So that's one, and I'm gonna do 8 for each leg. This is a good way to strengthen the glutes, besides, you know, one of the ways where last time you saw me do reverse hypers, which while I was doing the reverse hypers, I was essentially doing the same thing when I was lifting it up, but now in a plank form, I'm actually also working on my core and making sure that my glutes are the ones that have to work in this exercise. All right, so here we go. Check me out. 2 to 3 sets of that is always gets me every time. So now I'm actually going to work on some ankle mobility, and anytime I do any ankle mobility, what I make sure to do is I make sure that I have a resistance band and a pole like the squat rack right here. Then I actually just get my resistance band, place a foam roller, and I'm actually going to show you how I'm able to get my tibialis anterior. And this is brutal, man. When you do this exercise, you're going to feel it a little. So I like to call this tibialis anterior resistance band pulls. It's a complicated name, but honestly what you need to know is just where to place the band and where to place your foot on the foam roller so that you can get that tibialis anterior activated. What you really want to do is a band where you can do around 12 to 15 reps of it. Here, let's set it up. Key to this exercise, what you want to do is actually pull your foot back until you're reaching around your Achilles, to where that's where you actually bend the foot. If you're putting it to, if you're putting the foam roll in the middle of your calf, yeah, you're gonna feel it a little bit, but it's still gonna be a little bit easy. How you really make it tough is you roll the foam roller near your Achilles to where your ankle is right off the edge of the foam roller, and then that's how you're going to be able to actually get that tibialis anterior every time that you pull. And so I'm doing 4 sets of 15, and as you can tell, when I'm getting to around my 10th one, my ankle is going to start moving left to right. That's usually an indication that I need to increase my ankle mobility. I use a resistance band because that's actually a very good way that I can challenge those muscles without really running into the possibility of an injury. With that exercise, so that's just one of the many ways that I try to improve my ankle mobility, and that's a tibialis anterior exercise that I use with a foam roller using a resistance band. It's really great because after a while you start to feel in your metatarsals. Your metatarsals are basically the equivalent of your fingers, but it's your toes. And so like if I were to describe it like on my hand, basically when you feel in your metatarsals, you'll feel like it's almost each individual finger, or like leading up towards the toes, is actually like burning, and it's going to be really sore. That's just basically a way to show you that ankle mobility is really that tibialis anterior while working is all that force that's going through. So if you're jumping and you're landing, because we're going to be doing a lot of jumping and landing, especially trying to increase our vertical, you want to make sure that your ankle mobility is set. Now that I'm done torturing myself doing that, now it's time for me to actually jump to my final exercise of the day, which is my burnout. And it's a Swiss ball rollout. I like to use the Swiss ball rollout just because I'm able to target 2 primary muscles that are very important in terms of my vertical leap, and also important in terms of my rate of force development, my glutes and my hamstrings. Now the key to these hamstring, Swiss ball hamstring leg curls is you can do a single leg, you can do a double leg. Today I'm going to decide to challenge my body unilaterally, so I'm actually going to do single leg, which is going to be very, very tough, and this is a good way to finish. Now the key to this exercise is before you start, you want your knees around to where they're around 90 degrees or slightly above 90 degrees before you start, resting your calves on the Swiss ball. And then once you elevate your hips, that's when you start curling it in. When you elevate your hips, it makes it to where your hamstrings have to activate, because if you keep your hips down, then you're actually going to start feeling it a little bit in your calves, and your calves are doing the work. You really don't want your calves to do the work in this exercise. You want your hamstrings and your glutes to have to do the work. And it's very similar to a glute bridge, where as a glute bridge, you want to make sure that your core is tight so that you're able to actually get the other muscle groups. You want to make sure that your core is tight so you can actually get your glutes firing. So that's why for me, I raise my hips as high as possible, because that requires me to keep my core tight, and then as I'm curling it in, that's how I'm able to get my hamstring. You want to put your hands around 45 degrees, and by keeping it around 45 degrees, you're going to have better balance. Because when I first started using this, I was having a lot of balance issues. Every time you try to curl in, it'll turn your body. So if you put your arms around 45 degrees flat on the ground with a palm facing the ground, then you'll actually have more leverage, and you'll be able to maintain the form to where it stays in a straight line, and you're able to hit your hamstrings. So that does it for the workout. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Now we're gonna go out of here and actually get some nutrition, because we need to make sure we feed the body. It's time for me to go and get some grub. Here we go. Oh, I think I found it. Oh, would you look at that? When I need to make sure that I recover from a hard workout, especially like a squat, I always go for bagels. A lot of people find it weird that I go for bagels. I really don't like carbs that much, but for some reason, I'll eat a bunch of these with some water or some like diet soda or something. But I just always take these because it says on the back 260 calories per bagel. There's 6 bagels, so quick math, that's around 1560, but you only get like 6 grams of fat, only 6 grams of fat. So obviously I'm not really trying to finish all of this, but this is one of the easiest ways that I can actually get my carbs in, allow my body to heal, because I was talking about how my Achilles were starting to bother me a little bit. So this is one of the ways that I deal with it. This is just a cheap way to deal with it. You can actually have a balanced nutrition, but I just like having these because I'm able to actually stay away from the fat and still have enough carbs. So enough carbs, and then I make sure that of course I hit my protein, so that's why I have my protein shakes. But that's it for now here at Ralph's. I'm about to leave. This is one of my favorite places. We'll make a few more trips another time. But if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And if you like this video, share it with your friends and let me know if there's any other future topics you want to talk about. Any comments, leave in this section below. All are welcome. And I'll catch y'all next time on Sports Side. Check me out.